I've been trying to learn more about Elvis's life pre-famous. So I have decided I need to learn more about Elvis's life before he got famous. Right, let's start from the beginning. Let's just start reading this. So the website I found is called Elvis Australia, which I think is a very, very famous Elvis website. And I think they've got a really good YouTube channel as well. I'd actually like to know more about them because it's brilliant. Right, let's just start reading it from the beginning. And so Elvis Presley's Graceland is definitely the King's Castle. But for about the first half of his life, Elvis and his family had many other homes. The family moved often in both Tupelo and Memphis and lived in many different houses before Elvis ever crossed the old gates of Graceland. He called many other places from Tupelo to Memphis home. The name, I'm guessing, of his birth home that Vernon built is Old Sotillo Road. Elvis' birthplace was built by his father Vernon with help from Vernon's brother Vesta. And I think Vesta was the main person on the Graceland gates all through Elvis's life. Is that correct? Please let me know because I'm still learning. So he built it with the help of Vernon's brother Vesta and father Jesse. All right, see, I've just learned something new. I didn't know that Vernon Presley's father was called Jesse. And that makes sense, Jesse Garon, whose relatively spacious four-room house sat next door, located above a highway that transported locals between Tupelo and Birmingham, Alabama, and nestled among a group of small, rough-hewn homes along the old Sotillo Road. The house had no electricity. It was connected, but it was not used due to the cost or indoor plumbing and was similar to housing constructed for mill villages around that time. Okay, so they could have had electricity and plumbing, but they didn't because they couldn't afford it. Didn't know that. See, that's a new thing I learned. So that's the first house, and we've all seen the videos and the footage of Elvis. Pictures of the house, and you could do a museum tour with those properties now, and they've been refurbished, but they still, from what I've seen, still look the same as they looked back then. On May the 25th, 1938, Vernon and Travis and Leather are sentenced to 3 years in Mississippi State Penitentiary at Parkland for forging a check, I think. When she met Vernon, she met him in church. He was 17. She was 21. Her father ran a cotton picking business, I think, and she would work for him. Am I right about that? So they obviously were smitten, and very quickly she got pregnant. We all know the story of the twins being born, and that Vernon had to lie about his age so they could get married, which I think is so romantic. Let's keep looking. So we go on to the check fraud, and I know he was given 3 years, but I think he only served 8 months. Right, so Gladys is unable to maintain the repayment schedule on their home because he took out a loan for $180 to build that home, causing the family to lose this house. And she and Elvis are forced to move in with relatives. Gladys moved in briefly with her in-laws next door. All right, so Gladys actually moved next door to that house briefly. Obviously just with Elvis because Vernon's in prison. These are hard times for mother and son, understandably, in view of Jesse Presley's attitude towards his son. Gladys had grown more and more uncomfortable living next door to her father-in-law. At some point during Vernon's prison sentence, Gladys moved out and stayed with her cousin, Frank Richards. Whatever the reason, the Presleys never returned to the house Vernon built, Stories differ as to the reason on how the house left their ownership. On May the 16th, 1940, Vernon and Gladys and Elvis, obviously he's come out of prison by then, along with their cousins, Sales Presleys, and his wife Annie, Vernon, Gladys and Elvis, along with the cousins, Sales Presley, his wife Annie, and their daughter are living in Pascagoula, a port near Biloxi.